Welcome to a Mel 1 Auto Diagnostics video. Here today I have a 2019 Nissan Altima, and it is here for a check engine light being on. I've went ahead and scanned this vehicle, and the DTC I found was a U0284, which is an ECM code and is a lost comm with active grille shutter. Now, what the grille shutter does is it pretty much directs air into the engine room. I believe at high speeds it actually closes and reduces air drag, which helps with fuel economy. So lost comm with ECM. So this tells me that this component, this active grille shutter, must be on some kind of network with the ECM. And looking at the wiring diagram here, it actually is. It's on a LIN-BUS network, which includes the active grille shutter and the alternator or generator, as you see it here on the diagram. So very small network, low speed. What this network should look like is 12 volts baseline with some data packets. Those data packets, I believe, are coming from the ECM only, and it's how it controls these two components. So I actually did not see any other codes regarding the alternator. Typically, when these wires break before both components, we get a lost comm with alternator and lost comm with active grille shutter, and no battery lights on. So that also tells me that the ECM is probably able to communicate with that alternator, and our problem must be on the branch from down into the active grille shutter. So we may have an issue there. Being that the alternator is so accessible, what we can do is check that wire at the alternator and make sure that everything is fine there, and we can move forward with our diagnostic. Now, using a meter, what I'm looking for on this LIN-BUS is just about 12 volts. Obviously, our meter isn't able to pick up data packets, so I'm not gonna go crazy. I just want to make sure that there's no, some kind of weird short to ground here or anything out of the ordinary. If I see 12 volts, I pretty much know I'm good. All right, so we're hooked up at the LIN-BUS wire on the alternator there. I did pierce the wire. I'll be using some liquid electrical tape on that after I'm done with the vehicle. I have the ignition off, and I'm already showing 11 volts, 11 and a half volts. I'm gonna turn the vehicle on and see if we keep that voltage there, and that will tell me if that LIN-BUS circuit from the ECM to my alternator is good. All right, so the vehicle is running now. We see where we have a constant 12 volts. I'm sure I can do min-max on this. Maybe not. But this being at 12 volts is good enough for me to tell me that the ECM is sending out that voltage from that LIN communication wire. Usually we see these shorted to ground by one of the components or in the harness. So I'm gonna make my checks now at the active grille shutter under the vehicle and see what we get or what we can find. All right, so it really does not get any easier than this. So we're at the grille shutter here under the vehicle. I have the vehicle up on the lift, and that white wire for the LIN-BUS is actually just hanging out there. Someone has definitely been here before. I mean, I can see the electrical tape. That's definitely not factory. But what I can do is show you guys if we're getting that LIN-BUS voltage up to this point, because if we are, which I'm sure we will, all we have to do is repair this wire from here to the connector, which lives up here, and we should be good on that. All right, so I have my wire piercer just kind of that metal rod going through. I just kind of have it touching the copper on the wire there, and we can clearly see here that we are reading battery voltage. So we're good up to this point on that LIN-BUS communication wire. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to repair the wire if I can. We may need a pigtail of some sort, but I'm going to try to fix this wire, and I'm going to give you guys an update on what happens after that. Alright, so I have actually repaired the wire. I had to de-pin this connector and get a new pin from another connector. Unfortunately, the wire colors weren't the same. I wasn't able to find one. We soldered the wires and heat shrinked it, so we're gonna plug it in now and see what happens. Alright, so we're hooked back up here with the scan tool, and we can immediately see our code went past. So I think that's a fix. All we have left to do is calibrate the air grill shutter, and we should be all set to go. That was an easy repair, easy diag, I guess, if you know what you're looking for. That wire was broken right at the connector pretty much. It had been tampered with prior. There was tape and it was copper wire all over the place. I took care of all that for the customer. The customer did approve. For the repair, we gave the customer an option for a harness replacement, but they chose to go with the repair, and can't blame them. So yeah, that's a fix. I'm gonna go ahead and clear these codes and calibrate the grill shutter, and I'll see you on the next one. So before I end the video, I did want to show you guys that LIN-BUS wire. So we're back on the alternator, and I have my maxi scope hooked up here. So you can see we have about battery voltage right now, and then you see some communication going on there. That wire goes to the ECM, alternator, and grill shutter. It's a LIN-BUS, so it's only those two components that it communicates with on that network, apart from the high speed and all of that. So our multimeter isn't able to pick up the signals here you see that drop down to 0. It kind of just averages out on the 12. So that's what I showed you guys on my meter. But if you hook up a scope, this is actually what you should see. Sometimes what you will see is just a 0 flat line, and that's because either the alternator, the ECM, or the grill shutter have actually shorted out that LIN-BUS wire. So we want to make sure our LIN-BUS looks this way before, we move further with our diagnostics. So, from experience, I know if I see 12 on my meter with a little fluctuation, I know I'm good. I'd be worried if I see maybe 0 volts, then I'd look for a short to ground somewhere. The way to go about this is, if you do see a short to ground at the alternator, maybe you can start unplugging either the active grill shutter and see if you get your signal back, or unplug the alternator itself and see if you get your signal back. If you unplug both of those, what I would do next is unplug the ECM and check for a short to ground on the harness. If I find no short to ground, then I know my ECM is most likely my issue. So pretty easy fix today, very simple, and see you guys on the next one.